Good evening, everybody. I welcome you to our meeting. And we had a little bit issue with the speaker coming up, and then we asked if somebody want to step up, and Jim said he needs some people to make a test run for his speech for the next weekend. So I could give it over to you, Jim.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Oops. Is the internet still
Hey, who's
slow,
on?
Jim?
Who's all on here? Everybody I know. Okay, take your time, Jim. We're not going to wait on you too much, but you know.
Well,
We cannot see a screen, Jim,
I'm
right now.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Leave it to the computer professionals.
Hey, cut me some slack.
Why would I do that? You got to work with me in a couple weeks.
I know it.
Now here we go.
Can you see it?
Yes.
What's that mean looking white stuff?
Mean looking white stuff.
I don't see
No.
that in my part of the world.
It's a four-letter word.
Yeah.
Are you seeing just a slide?
Yes, we can see.
Well, on the
Yeah,
next
the-
slide,
the
we're seeing
picture-
your presenter view, Jim.
Oh, are you? That's what I was trying to
Yeah.
figure out.
PowerPoint is devious that way. It's probably mirroring instead of extending, right?
How about now?
There
you go.
Here we
More
go.
like it, yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate you letting me do this tonight. I have this presentation I'm giving in a conference next week, and I haven't really had a chance to practice it. It's going to be a conference of forensics examiners, digital forensics examiners, law enforcement, and cybersecurity professionals. So if you have any questions, be sure and let me know, because I think that the law enforcement, the police officers may have some trouble with it. So if you don't understand something, let me know so I can try and make it more understandable. Most of us in digital forensics or information security are accustomed to working with commercial products like Encase, Magnet, Forensics Toolkit, IDAPRO, or other fine commercial products. I am personally intrigued by the large number of open source tools available for download. Last year, I spoke about the Autopsy Forensics Suite, and I successfully used it for my forensics recertification. Back in August of 2018, I attended the DoD TechNet conference in Augusta, Georgia, when the NSA representative announced the pending release of their malware analysis tool. For those of you that may not know, Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia has become all things cyber for the US Army. Army Cyber Command is there, Signal School is there, Cyber School is there, and even NSA has a presence there. Since that meeting, I have been curious about exploring GUIDRA further, so I proposed it as a topic for this year's conference. GUIDRA is not the only open source tool available for malware analysis. And there is a URL on one of the slides that provides some comparisons of the open source malware analysis tools. Open source has become a major topic these days, and even Microsoft is getting into the open source software movement. Azure now runs on Linux and Microsoft also bought GitHub. Ghidra is a very sophisticated piece of software, and quite frankly, when I got to 50 slides, I quit adding them since I kept finding new and interesting features, and I only had 50 minutes. I hope this presentation whets your appetite to explore Ghidra and malware analysis further. Finally, as you can see, I left a disclaimer at the top that I was required to use last year when I was still a government employee. For any Final Fantasy V fans, here is some background information on where the name most likely came from. We will discuss the multi-headed feature of Ghidra, and the name selection will become more clear as the presentation proceeds. So Greater Hydra, or Ghidra, translates to Ghidra, which is where I think that name came from. Henry Ford said that if he had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. NSA research comes up with new solutions that nobody even thought of, and they are not constrained by established requirements. They have the freedom to fail. NSA research also created the Secure Edition Linux, and who knows what else they have developed, what we don't know about. Shortly after the NSA research mission became declassified in 2014, in August of 2016, the government CIO created a policy to allow sharing of government developed software. Also, the website code.gov was established, allowing external developers to contribute to government open source software. Of course, last year, we saw the downside of dependencies in open source software, which resulted in widespread vulnerabilities like Log4j and many other hacks. We're talking about things like Colonial Pipeline, those kind of hacks. These were based by developers that took modules from other software and added them to their software, not realizing that there was major vulnerabilities in them. That makes sense to you. These are some of the features that NSA research wanted in the Ghidra software. It does allow for network-based analysis for team efforts. Users can develop and integrate their own tools, and Ghidra can run without a graphical user interface for repetitive tasks. Please note that it is only recently that IDA-Pro started allowing undo and redo, which the malware analysis community complained about for quite a while. It wasn't until Ghidra was released that IDA-Pro started providing this feature. Here we're talking about different levels of software. I'm kind of an old guy, so I know first generation and second generation. Most of these higher level software languages is what the new developers are using. I think it's a lot easier to code with the third generation, fourth, and fifth generation. And they're also working on sixth generation, whereas you just tell the computer what you want it to do and it'll write the code for you. Generic hexadecimal integrated decompiling reverse engineering architecture. Ghidra is not really an acronym, but as you can see, someone attempted to make it so. Ghidra does allow for multiple capabilities, including the capability to view the malware file at the byte and hexadecimal level, to disassemble the code to assembly level, and then to decompile the code to a third generation high level language. All of these windows can be viewed simultaneously. So I guess you're never going to let me speak again, right?
No, that's fine.
So I've already mentioned the assembler view, byte viewer, and software listing. You can also leave bookmarks associated with different lines of code. There's a data type manager tree that will provide additional information on data types, along with entropy and navigation trees, a search function, and version tracking, which will assist in tracking and determining differences in different files. In other words, you can take the original file and the file with malware, you can compare them and it'll tell you what the differences are. It also provides multi-user support out of the box, which is still not provided by IDA Pro. When we're doing software testing, I do a lot of the static analysis kind of testing stuff, reviewing results for that. You can do static analysis where you take and you test the software when it's not running. It just does kind of a grammar check on the software looking for vulnerabilities. Then you can do dynamic analysis where you actually run the software and then try and penetrate it, try and get into it. Now, Ghidra allows manual review of disassembled and decompiled software. It allows you to review the software at 3 different levels: hex, assembler, and 3rd generation language once it's been decompiled. For dynamic testing, you will need to configure a different test environment, such as a sandbox or virtual machine environment, and use a different tool type, such as Web Inspector, Burp Suite. The Ghidra SRE website used to provide the software download, but now it just redirects to GitHub, where you can not only download the software, but the source code, installations, instructions, a cheat sheet, and other documents as well. You can see it's written in different languages. Most of them are 3rd generation. I want to make sure that we are all going to read and acknowledge a license agreement every time Ghidra starts. Please raise your hand if you don't plan on reading the license agreement. Okay, I thought I would try and run a demo. Can you see that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, this is the initial screen that shows up when you launch Ghidra. Here's some of the analysis options you can have. I use the portable executable. Okay, now if you look down in the lower left-hand corner, it's disassembling it, which means it's converting into assembly level, and now it's decompiling it. Decompiling it will take it to a high-level language. Takes a few minutes to do this. What do you think of the demo? You like it?
I think it makes it a little bit more evident than just the slides, certainly.
Uh-huh.
So if
Yeah.
we're talking about real world context, Jim, how does the forensic investigator get the bin file?
Oh, well, you either get it during an incident, you find a piece of malware. I went out and found it. I'm going to talk a little bit about it later. I pulled down a remote access Trojan called, I think, Warzone. So,
And the audience already knows how to do this part?
well, they don't know how to do this part. It was suggested to me that I do a demo of what it looked like. And I'm going to go through a lot of these screens.
Jim, what would you consider a high level language?
Be something like Java or
Okay.
and I think the fourth generation, we went through a slide with that. I think the fourth level, you're talking about the scripting language like Python, Perl,
Okay.
some of that stuff.
C++.
Yeah.
Things. Okay.
Yeah, I think C++ was in the third.
Is it
Okay.
interesting for every company as well to, help to secure the computer and all the informations?
Well, what we're talking about here is analyzing malware to see what it does and see if they can figure out where it came from and
Okay.
how to cure what it did. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, okay. That was my question now. So I know it has something to do with security, but when you're not knowing what you're talking from the technical standpoint and somebody like me is sitting there, then for me, the first question is, okay, for what I can use it, Could you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
I have to figure out where that slide is again, if I can find it.
Mhm.
This looks to me like it's not end user kind of software. It's for a specialized audience, right, Jim?
That's correct. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of forensics examiners and IT kind of people. I just wanted to take the opportunity to try practicing because I've been working on it for a few months and I really
Wow.
haven't had a chance to practice it. And I got to do it.
I'm telling you, you get rid of that damn snow, that's your malware problem right there.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, do you see that?
Yeah,
We're seeing the
But
presenter
also-
view.
yeah.
Say that again?
We're seeing the presenter view of the next slide.
Oh,
Showing
you're
one.
seeing this presenter view?
Yeah.
Now it's gone.
So you want to get comfortable with that toggle in the PowerPoint, of course, but another thing that might be good, Jim, is to have a scenario of, a hack and exploit and
Yeah.
then how the tool went into figuring out what it was through the resolution. You're talking about the business situation or the criminal law situation, whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah, good idea. Okay, so these are some of the options that you can use. I just use the Ghidra core. They worked on this thing for, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. And it's very sophisticated. Every time you turn around, you find something else.
Mhm.
So,
Do you think that black hat hackers are using this tool to see if they can evade Ghidra?
I don't know if Black Hat are, I would think some of the nation states are
Mhm.
using it. They're not supposed to be able to download this, but I'm sure they're doing some of this stuff, trying to figure out what other people are doing and what they can do to try and hide their malware.
Mhm.
There's a lot of malware out there these days.
Oh, yeah.
Within the code browser, the main display, there are 5 different specific areas which we will review. These are the program tree, the symbol tree, the data type manager, the assembler listing, and the console.
Mhm.
Here's some of the options for the code browser. As you can see, this is pretty sophisticated software. You'll be happy to know that we will not be reviewing all these options, or they might have to extend this conference and I may have to go back to school.
Mhm.
Ghidra does not really install. You download the compressed file, put it in a folder, and you have to extract it. If Java is not installed on your machine, you will need to add a Java runtime to the system. Once you have downloaded and installed the Java runtime environment or Java development kit, you will need to add that path to the environment. Then you can run Ghidra. You can see that, I don't know if it shows it on this slide, but you can run it on Linux as well, Linux and Mac. In the case of a Windows machine, you can run a batch file, and then you can run this Ghidra run file. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
This Ghidra run file is what you would use if you wanted to run it in Linux. I haven't tried it in Linux yet. I'll have to try that sometime. This magically brings Ghidra up with the Ghidra help window. The Ghidra help is actually very, very helpful. As I mentioned before, you can run Ghidra independently or you can run it in a shared environment. The malware analysts that I know really like this shared capability because IDA Pro does not do that. It allows multiple analysts to work on the same piece of software.
Mhm.
In
Cool.
order to run a shared environment, you'll need to set up a Ghidra server to host the files. There's an entire section in the manual for Ghidra server setup. You just select a location for your project. The conference I'm going to is called Techno Security. As usual, you can create a new folder and store it wherever you want. I did not play around with the multi-user environment, but it is probably just a file share environment with user write-in assignments. You can browse to the target software or malware location and select it. Additionally, you can drag and drop the software. This is that binary file I downloaded. With Windows security, it was kind of problematic. I had a lot of, it deleted that file a lot of times before I figured out how to do an exception. Shown are the import options: portable executable, which is Windows, or extended link format, which is Linux, are the options available. Ghidra will supply the language, but you can select other options. It shows the destination folder and the program name. There are also other options available as well. Just select the options button on the dialog box. If you double click on the file, it will disassemble the software. If more information or a different format is needed, then the code can be decompiled. You can also look at the software in a byte or hexadecimal format. A couple of people may know what this little Indian is and all that gobbledygook there. Here are the import results summary. It is little Indian, which I'd like to find a person that thought that up because it's a nightmare. 519 kilobytes, 4 functions, 88 symbols, 36 data types, and 3 data type categories. Compiler was Visual Studio. It is a portable executable, and it provides the hashes. The external reference library is kernel 32.dll, which exposes applications to most of the Windows 32 base application program interfaces. This is your disassembler view. It shows the program in assembly language. A move command, for example, will result in moving data, or a compare CMP will compare data, or a JGE is jump if greater or equal to. The blue bar on the right is an overview of the program, and the gray bar shows your location within the program. The pink and red bar is entropy scaled 0 to 8, which is supposed to display when you hover over the bar, but I couldn't get it to do that. That's supposed to be the randomness of the software. Click anywhere in the disassembled code and Guidra will ask if you would like it analyzed, which equates to decompiling the code. Once you select yes, it provides analysis options. The only one I ever added was the Windows portable extraction or portable executable x386 propagate external parameters. That all the other ones I just left. The malware I selected was part of the Ave Maria malware family, specifically the Warzone Remote Access Trojan, or RAT. During download, Windows Defender kept detecting it as malware, so I ended up having to disable Defender to complete the download, and it ended up putting in an exception for its storage location, so Defender would quit deleting it. A piece of trivia is that this Trojan sold for $22.95 a month or $49.95 for 3 months. That's so the script kiddies can come and hack your machine. There are other options available and enhanced capabilities available. If you want to spend more, I did download the binary file and the packet capture file, but I really didn't have time to play with the packet capture file. If you're interested in a more detailed analysis of the Warzone RAT, here are some videos that you could watch. It's actually still for sale if anybody wants to rent it. These are the displays that will automatically come up once you have imported the file. You got the program tree, the symbol tree, data type manager, the assembly code, and then your debugging information. As you can see, there are a lot of available windows which Guidra can provide. As mentioned in the previous slide, the defaults are decompile, bytes, program tree, symbol tree, data type manager, and listing, which is assembly. Here's a decompiled on the left and disassembled on the right. It was recommended that I point out how nice it is to have decompiled code available. I have to say, in this case, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Most of what I have done is machine level and assembly level, so that decompiled code is Greek to me.
So what's the layman's solution if you get one of these things on your computer?
There's different tools that you can download to scan. Windows Defender is built into your machine. It should find any older malware. You're not always going to find the newer stuff, but there are tools that you can use to clean up your machine. Does that make sense?
Yep.
One of my friend's moms just got hacked a few weeks ago, so I was over cleaning up her machine. There's about 4 or 5 different tools you can get. Go and scan her machine and then clean it up. Here's another sample of the decompiler window. This is a typical hexadecimal display that many of us are familiar with. In the upper right-hand corner, you get copy, paste, edit, set options. You can take a screenshot of the window or you can close it. The Program Tree Manager allows you to create, delete, rename, and close program tree views. As an aside, there's also a program differences function where you can designate two different program files, and Guidera will show you the differences between those two files. This could be very helpful in malware analysis. A symbol in computer programming is a data type whose instances have a unique human readable form. Symbols can be used as identifiers. The symbol tree is organized into the following categories: externals, such as import, exports, function labels, classes, and namespaces. I would consider it something like a shortcut. If you double click the newly created structure in the data type manager window on the left, the structure editor window on the right opens to show 24 elements of undefined type, all with a length of one. To determine the number, sizes, and types of the individual elements within the structure, you could study the disassembly or you could let the decompiler listing provide the answers. This is a listing of all the uses of the data type. You could remove specific items, you can copy them, or you can export items or columns in comments, separated value, or CSV files. I thought this was pretty interesting. It'll automatically do a diagram of the software. This diagram represents the flow of one section of a program to another section. This is a compact hierarchical using Max Cross Kaufman Graham algorithm, which biases the vertices using a scheduling algorithm to minimize length. As you can see on the side there, there's a lot of different drawings, a lot of different formats you can get these drawings in. And here's a function graph. Provides a graphical layout of a single function. This is in the assembly level. This is an example of the function call tree, which shows all the calls to and from a specific function. This function tree provides a hierarchical listing of the functions in the program. I really only know two professional malware analysts. One was effectively self-taught, and this is the book he started with. It is highly recommended, but is 10 years old, so it is dated in some aspects. There are several complaints in Amazon reviews about the tools recommended by the book being no longer available. On the other hand, malware analysis concepts and techniques remain pretty consistent. I did use a Guidera book by Chris Eagle and Karen Nance as a reference. I didn't purchase Guidera Software Reverse Engineering for Beginners by AP David, but these are the only two reference books that I could find, and they both have excellent reviews on Amazon. The Guidera book has 5 stars and the Guidera Reverse Engineering has 4.5 stars. You can find many videos on YouTube concerning Guidera. These are the videos that I found and used for developing this presentation. These are some options for finding some malware to test with. Some you may have to register for, some you can just download. The bottom is a remote access Trojan that I downloaded for testing. I had to disable Windows Defender Virus Scan as it kept identifying it as malware and then deleting it. Then I had to input an exception so that Windows Defender wouldn't keep deleting it. Windows Defender will only remain disabled until the next system reboot, and then it will automatically re-enable. That's just a piece of trivia. I learned quite a bit by developing this presentation. And if you have an interest in software reverse engineering or malware analysis, Guidra is a pretty cost-effective way to get started. As I mentioned previously, there are many open source options available, and IDAPRO does have an evaluation copy available. I really appreciate your taking the time to listen to me. Are there any questions?
Is that something you're working with now with your new business, Jim?
No. I'm doing cybersecurity analysis. I just thought it was interesting
Mm-hmm.
to see this open source software. I did a forensics toolkit last year, so I used that to do my recertification exam. And this thing's probably too complicated for me to get too close to. I've been wanting to do something with a product called Burp Suite, which you can use to test websites security. So I thought that would be my next thing. Maybe next year. You're probably already looking forward to that.
Another goal. So for me, of course, it's a little bit high tech. You know, I'm not like this in this theme that I can really follow you. But you know, I'm sure somebody who have a clue about that, they can understand. I don't know, Deb, did you understand something? Because she's working in the computer business, but not everybody have to do with, you know, writing these programs. You know, I think you have to be a little bit more in this theme. Did you know what he's talking about, Deb?
Oh yeah, because I literally spent last night removing malware from a client site. So yeah, I've seen some things recently. So
Well, I think that people that maybe have some experience with it, maybe David or Scott, they probably were more comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as new to them.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
I
interesting.
appreciate you taking the
how
time
things
to listen
work.
to me. Let me do my presentation.
Sure. It's something that's sometimes good when you see over your own, you know, horizon, I would
Yeah.
say.
I will
And,
see if I can
learn-
come up with a scenario where you might use it.
I like examples. When you show me on an example what you're doing, then it's always more better than to listen, you know, only the
Sure.
facts. So when you can see something, this is for me, because I'm a visual type, it's always something, it pops up in my mind. And then constantly I'm thinking how I can use it and for what I can use it, what it would bring me, things like that.
Well,
What's my profit out of
malware analysis, we have, where I used to work, we had 600 cybersecurity people. We had 2 malware analysts.
Wow.
So it's pretty rare. I think they can do pretty well. So.
You know, when you think about it, even my husband's little company, you know, they get hacked and they wanted money from him. Otherwise, they would not give him access to his own, you know, computer, how you call it, the saving process, you know. So, and then they said, they decided, no, we don't do that. But it's hard for some companies. I was looking in a documentation in the German TV channel, and they showed us a documentation about companies in Germany that get hacked, and they tried, and then they worked over 1.5 years to get their data back. You know, it was pretty hard.
Every time I tell somebody that I started a company, every one of them had just got hacked in some fashion. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So And I'm working on the cybersecurity presentation for October, so I think it'll be a good one this year.
Yes. So maybe you have to talk with Chris over that theme when you are in Houston and we together on the booth. I think it would be interesting for him as well.
Yeah.
For the company.
So any questions, any other suggestions? Kind of dry material, huh?
Yeah, this is why I mean, maybe like an example, if you have an example, you know, you
Sure.
can show.
Yeah.
Or why are you not doing such a little YouTube video, maybe, you know?
Hmm. So what'd you think, Scott?
Well, I'd agree with what you're saying. It's all kind of conceptual. So if you can tell a story with it, then
Mhm.
you're going to better engage the audience.
Sure.
You could even
Yeah.
drop a couple surveys, little participation windows within your presentation, a show of hands, something simple.
Sure. What'd you think, David?
David is driving.
How is he?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I just thought, I was just curious what you thought. I guess you didn't get to see the slides anyway, so.
I didn't get to see him, but I followed it. I think it's fascinating. And I know this didn't have a whole lot to do with your topic, but you really piqued my interest when you talked about the 6th generation coding.
Oh, yeah.
I've always thought that would be the future of coding, that you just tell the computer what to do. And I'm delighted to hear that they're actually making headway with that.
Yeah, I just read about that. Some of this artificial intelligence stuff. You say, computer, I want a program that does this, and it writes it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is I think this is it's a novel way to to debug things and to find the viruses and root them out. I mean, it's very elegant that you can just look at the code at different levels and make assessments of it. I think it's
Well, it's even
fascinating.
better because it's free.
Yeah,
Can't beat free.
exactly.
Anybody else have any comments, recommendations? I'll try and figure out a story to tell.
Yeah. And if you want to talk about what the human or financial impact is of a certain exploit, where this is used, I think that's going to add some meat onto it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about some of that in October, but it can be billions.
Yeah.
Context. I think context is very helpful.
Well, like the pipeline thing that you mentioned, that was a good one. I was actually in North Carolina during that, and we were gathering for a motorcycle ride and loading a pickup truck with a bunch of empty gas cans where we could find a place that was open.
Yeah.
Personal experience of that one.
Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. That'll help make it more interesting, I think. Anybody else?
Everybody else is left the building.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sticking around.
Yeah, we thank you that you stepped up and, made this, even it's a test run for you and a little bit cryptic, but how we mentioned our speaker wasn't that interested or had something figured out and it was really complicated. So we was happy that you stepped up. Otherwise I had to tell something or have to ask somebody else, so thank you for that, Jim.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks, Jim. I
that's-
enjoyed your talk. I've enjoyed all your talk actually, but this one was very informative. I didn't know any of this, so thank you for sharing this.
Give us a little bit more an idea what you're doing also, Jim. So very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. I'm still working. So,
Mhm.
Well, sorry, I had mute on. I was gonna say it's always scary when you say that the crooks have access to the same information we do.
Yeah.
They're always just the same. They have the same tools that you have. So I mean, how do you stay ahead of them?
well, and a lot of the crooks aren't even in this country, and where they're doing their hacking, it's not even illegal.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's good business for them.
It's
Yeah.
frustrating to even listen to, you say, well, you get one step ahead and then they get 4 steps ahead.
Mm.
Brr.
Yeah, that's true. And everybody is confronted with that thing,
Yep.
this is the scary part of it, really everybody. So
And
makes
then
no
they
sense.
charged you $22.99 or whatever it was, or $49, whatever it is, so you can have the grief.
It's like the ransomware thing.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Well, those prices that I quoted are what it costs to rent that software if you
Yep.
want to hack somebody.
Yeah.
They rent it out to you. Malware is a service, they call it.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
what they can do with that remote access Trojan is get your passwords, watch what you're doing.
Well, I guess I maybe it's a dumb question, but when you get something and you're wondering if it's malware or if it's just, or you buy something, I guess I was wondering, how do you find or how do you use the tool? And I guess I'm not really expecting an answer, but when you're giving your presentation, how do you use that tool to find the faulty DNA in the programming, I guess?
Well, you would have to be a trained malware analyst. What you have to do is make sure you vet your software before you buy it. And
Right.
be very careful when you download software.
Right.
If you're going to download software, make sure you do it from a known site with a good reputation.
Yeah. It just seems like no
Maybe
matter
that
how careful you are, you always step in it somehow.
Yeah.
You know?
But maybe this can be a theme for another meeting, Jim, how everybody in his own, like for the private user or the small
Yeah, that's-
business users.
That's
can
what I do
protect
in
and what kind
October.
of. Okay, perfect,
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
this year it's going to be about the weakest link.
Well, thanks a lot.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
I have a computer that I do nothing but financial stuff.
Mhm.
I don't do anything else on it except go to banks. No email, no web browsing, nothing. That way I'm relatively assured I won't get malwares, assuming that none of the banks that I use have malware on their website.
Mhm.
So,
Most people don't have that luxury, though, I think.
well, I think I paid, I don't know, $250 for it. It's a lot cheaper than getting hacked.
Yeah.
But I mean, in your workaday life, you're not going to carry around 4 computers, one for email, one for your finance.
Oh, you
spreadsheet,
don't?
one
I
for
do
your,
it all the time.
Mhm. But I started it to surf in the internet only with the iPad, for example, or with with a pad, but not with a computer.
Yep.
So I started doing that as well.
Yeah, I'd be very
because-
careful doing financial stuff on the same computer you browse the web or do email. So
Mhm.
just gotta be careful.
Sorry.
Okay. Phone is going. Bye, Scott.
Yep.
You have to go on the phone.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
gonna have to scoot here in a second too.
Thank you guys for the meeting.
No, thank you.
And we'll see you next week, right?
Yeah,
And
Thanks.
David, if you like, you can still stay in the line and we can talk a little bit if you are
Okay.
able to do it, right?
Right.
Okay. Bye, guys.
thanks for
Goodbye.
staying.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.